like the idea of just a wallet I can put on my wrist and just go out about my day. So while I'm talking about what I want to talk about, we are going to be in my bathroom because I need to sort all of my makeup into these two things that I got from the bins. Remember, well, there's something going on with my camera, so I'm not able to get my long-standing, like my longer audio off of it. So while that's gonna be late, I have to find my USB thing that I can just put my SIM card in. It's somewhere, but I never unpacked it from the move. So let me try to fix this so it's even. And I'll put it kind of like this so y'all can kind of see what I'm doing. But basically what I want to talk about, which is also in the title of this video, is if I start getting popular from Melanie Martinez, because the video of me reacting to the snippets was my first ever video to hit over 1,000 views, which so very grateful for the people who watched it and even more grateful for the people who commented. I would just like to make a stance on a few things, because what I won't tolerate is disrespect on either side of the situation of the allegations. But I also want to talk about how I feel about some other things that has been brought up because of the allegations. Like, so my first thing is, I saw recently, I did see a I saw a YouTube video, and it was talking about, okay, for background context, I was a psychology major. I actually got pretty deep into the major and I almost got my bachelor's, but because of some things I had to drop out. So I do know a little about how media affects people. We talk about it a lot. We also go over like the things that should or shouldn't be like soaked in or absorbed, or, you know, as children. And the video on YouTube was titled the unseen effects of crybaby. If y'all do see that video that I'm talking about on YouTube, do not go and send any hate. I did comment on the video about what I thought about the situation, but I think the message of the video wasn't very genuine. You know, I get it, you don't like Melanie Martinez for something that, you know, may or may not be true. I have my own stance on that situation itself, but the video was mainly about how a bunch of people who were young watching Melanie at the time ended up getting introduced into the DDLG scene, or the age regression scene. I do not think that is solely Melanie Martinez's fault, because I was there on Tumblr when DDLG first became popular, and we all know Tumblr was like the place to go to find certain type of like BDSM stuff. So I think regardless of if Melanie was a thing or not, I do not think her aesthetic of crybaby contributed to children who shouldn't have been on those websites figuring out about DDLG. I think it has been confirmed that Alita did at some point participate in age regression. Age regression and DDLG are two separate things. Age regression is a form of mental coping from trauma. It is a very valid coping mechanism. Age regression has nothing to do with being sexual, but DDLG in some rights can be sexual. The main similarities between age regression and DDLG, unfortunately, is the style of clothing wearing, because age regressors do try to fully encapsulate whatever grades they're regressing to before trauma happened, and with that, they might have a child's room. They might simply just dress childlike, or you see like pacifiers and stuff like that. I do not see anything personally wrong with age regression, but the topic of DDLG is a very, I wouldn't say it's a very sensitive topic in the BDSM community, but people do have their gripes with it because DDLG also crosses over with age play, and it's like, it's kind of a big thing. So I would like to add to this context. I think the reason why a lot of people think Melanie Martinez is the cause of them entering the DDLG scene, I don't think that's Melanie's fault. What I think is your parents, and I'm talking to the people who do think this, your parents allowing you to consume Melanie Martinez's music at an age you should have not been consuming Melanie Martinez's music is your parents' fault. And even now, there are a lot of parents who do not consume the media that their kids are consuming and just let them freely listen and watch things. Believe it or not, I was not allowed to listen to Melanie Martinez until the age of 16, and that is mainly because my mom, whenever I liked a new music artist or anything, my mom would listen to their album. She would read the lyrics, and then she would then approve or disapprove. And my mom did not approve of Melanie Martinez. She said I should not be listening to Melanie Martinez until I get older, because she felt like the topics that were being discussed were not something I should be consuming, which is fair. These topics that Melanie goes over are more for adults who've been through these things and, you know, want to like not relive it, but they relate to that music because they have been through these things. That does not mean that Melanie is encouraging these things. When I started really listening back to Melanie Martinez at 16, when I was like watching her music videos and stuff like that, I never got anything sexual from Melanie Martinez. I never felt like I was being encouraged to get into this stuff. I've honestly never even seen her clothing as anything with DDLG. If you, I didn't know anything about DDLG until college. Where I'm from, the BDSM convention comes through, so I get to talk to people about certain things, but her outfits never gave DDLG. I know some people might disagree with me, and that's fine, but to me, from what I've seen from actual DDLG, like adult videos, it is very different. I know a lot of people in the Lolita aspect don't like Melanie Martinez clothing, but I feel like Melanie Martinez clothing is a very much mix of Lolita and a specific form of gyaru that does, where their clothes do mimic some children's outfits. I think it's a mix between those two, and I've never seen it as sexual, and I don't think it's sexual. I think children and adults who were exposed to adult themes early will see that as sexual, but that, again, that is not something that's Melanie's fault. That's my stance on that. Like I said, we can agree to disagree on that, or you can just completely disagree with me, you know, at all. And then I know people are going to bring up, well, oh, it's been confirmed that she's bought clothing from popular DDLG websites. And I will say, it was also confirmed that a lot of those outfits, the stylist, her clothing stylist did get those from Depop. But when I looked more into it, I realized me myself have gotten a lot of things from DDLG websites that I didn't know was DDLG websites, simply because I was big into cosplay at the ages of 19 through 22. I still like cosplaying, but when I first got into cosplaying, there was nothing in my size. So when I wanted to cosplay as a Japanese schoolgirl, I don't remember the anime, but when I wanted to cosplay that, I couldn't get like actual like cosplay like schoolgirl outfits. It was not like a thing for me at that time, because remember, plus size cosplayers are kind of just now being accepted, but a lot of websites still aren't plus size friendly. So there has been multitude of times where I've went on specific websites and did not know they were DDLG websites. And a lot of people who shop do not know they're shopping on kink sites, because the main thing for kink sites is to be public without exposing yourself. The only websites that I know that are very open about it are specifically sites that are for bondage. But my whole rebuttal to that also is, why is it not okay for Melanie to get certain clothing items from a DDLG website, but people can commonly go to adult stores, Hot Topic, Spencer's, you know, clothing stores like that, and get a lot of alternative clothing that is also meant for different types of BDSM. BDSM clothing, and I know people are going to disagree with me about this take as well, but in my opinion, if other people can wear certain like kink clothing items as fashion, why can't Melanie Martinez? And like I said, y'all are going to disagree with me, but I don't see a lot of Melanie's outfits as sexual. Her storyline is not common. Melanie was actually like hated on for a while because of the themes of her music, because it was talking about things that people don't typically talk about. So it's like, I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand it. If somebody wants to explain to me how her using certain clothing from one differs from the other, because at the end of the day, if you're not wearing it sexually, I don't see the problem. People wear a lot of bondage stuff for their alt fashion, and they don't consider that inappropriate. But like I said, that's my opinion. I know people are gonna ask my stance on the Melanie Martinez and Timothy situation. I personally feel that, so I went through the Twitter feed of, like, there's a person online who did a whole run through and literally pulled tweets. They pulled tweets on the side of Timothy Heller. They pulled tweets of Melanie's side. I read both sides. I really took in everything, and my opinion from that is very gray. I feel like there's a lot of things and a lot of information on both sides that could easily make you believe in one side over the other, and I'm going to choose to keep neutral about it, if I'm going to be completely honest. There were some things that Timothy said and did that made me side-hide her a little bit. Especially when she came back out the second time with the allegations. There was, when she was going live and things like that, there was just some things that she said where I was just like, I felt like a lot of this should have been handled privately. It should have never came out public, and that's it for me personally. I think there was a specific live, and you know what live I'm probably talking about. It was a live with her on TikTok with another girl, and when people were asking her why didn't she go to the police, her common answer was Melanie Martinez was famous at the time. She's with Atlantic Records. Melanie's with Atlantic Records, and if you know anything about Atlantic Records, Atlantic Records is partially owned by Diddy, and they won't care. They don't care about anything about you legally. Atlantic Records whole thing is you signed a contract to make 5 albums. You're going into debt. We're only paying for 2 videos for each album. It's very like predatory. So I don't think Atlantic Records would have even bothered to help someone who didn't even have a album out at the time. So I feel like if Timothy really wanted to go to court, she could have. You know, I know going to court and everything like that is scary, and I know for a lot of victims the cost of it doesn't outweigh the justification. But I felt like at the time, because Melanie was already in so much debt to Atlantic Records, they wouldn't have done anything to help her. But there was a live that Timothy did, and when people asked Timothy about it and was like, if you didn't want to go to court, like, why even speak out about it and stuff, which I don't think people should have said that. But Timothy and the girl who was online with her, Timothy herself said out of her mouth in the clip that she didn't want Melanie to get in trouble. She didn't want Melanie to get in legal trouble. She just wanted her story told, which is fine. But I felt like if Timothy really wanted that, she should have, I think she should have talked to like a therapist or something, because I feel like in Timothy's case, because she knew I genuinely think Timothy would have never came out with this story, because if you read her her official statement, it really felt like the only reason she said anything was because people in her life kind of forced her to say something. So that's my opinion. I also didn't like with the whole Timothy situation, the timeline of events. I'm not going into it, but there's just a lot of things with this case that it makes me be like, I know something happened, but the way in which the storyline went, it's just like, I don't know. I do think something happened, but I don't think it was the way Timothy said, just based off of what I think. I also take age into accountability. It has been like brought up that at the time Melanie was under the age of 21. Melanie, they were both, it was known that her and Melanie would do drugs together, and I think the legality of the case would have been thrown out simply for the fact that it had already been known that Timothy was the one providing cannabis to Melanie. It's just a lot of things that, like, legally that case wouldn't have been going anywhere, simply for the fact that, like, both parties were in a sense like under alcohol, not alcohol, but under like drugs, like they were high. So it's just that. But when Timothy came out and was like she didn't even want Melanie to get in trouble or anything, she just wanted to tell her story, then I felt like at that point there shouldn't have been a reason to come out publicly about it. Because if you're saying you don't want her to get in trouble or anything, then why come out with anything? And it's whatever. Once at that point in time, I wasn't really listening to Melanie, because I was like, I didn't know how to feel about the situation. Because again, I wasn't allowed to listen to Melanie until I turned 16, and I really thank my mother for that, you know, because I shouldn't have been listening to Melanie at 12. I shouldn't have been listening to Dollhouse. Like, there's nothing about Melanie's like messages or anything that I would say are appropriate for children. So yeah. And I think Melanie briefly stated as well that her music wasn't for kids, despite, you know, her writing a lot of her songs at 16. I also want to talk about how people feel about I want y'all to know that Melanie isn't as rich as y'all think she is. Atlantic Records is a known like predatory music company. Marina and the Diamonds and a lot of other popular artists like SZA are under contract with Atlantic Records, and they're known to be predatory. They are not a good company to work with, and I feel like that's why Melanie's trying to get her last 2 albums out the way, so that way she can be an independent artist. And I feel like once she becomes an independent artist, stuff won't be as expensive. I feel like they'll still be expensive, but I feel like the reason why things are super expensive now is because she is probably in a lot of debt with Atlantic Records. I don't know if y'all know this, but even if you fulfill your contract, if you still owe the money, you have to pay that. So, yeah. What else did I want to talk about with this whole situation? I do agree though. It's like some of those things are expensive when they, and you would think it'd be like better quality, like her perfumes and stuff being in the plastic containers. Even though they were created by independent people, you would think like stuff like that would be more expensive. But being in the perfume world, for instance, that Burberry cologne, for it to be that expensive, I think people ignore it because it's in a glass bottle. And I think that's why a lot of like more high-end companies don't do extravagant like packaging or anything, because making perfume or parfum in its own is just expensive. And the fact that Melanie went out her way to make things look more extravagant, that's why it's expensive, even if it is plastic. Because metal, if she would have did anything in even cheap metal, it would have skyrocketed that stuff up to like over $200. I'm not gonna lie with y'all. With the album K through 12, people said they didn't like K through 12 because it felt like she was sexualizing a lot of things that goes on between elementary school to high school. I don't think she was. I think she was being very realistic about that. A lot of people say Teacher's Pet, she was sexualizing a teacher-student relationship. And truly, if y'all got that from Teacher's Pet, that is your problem, honestly. Because in no way, shape, or form is Teacher's Pet sexualizing, or not sexualizing, romanticizing an inappropriate relationship between a teacher and a student. At the end of the day, I think she encapsulated that relationship perfect, because at the end of the day, the way y'all were creeped out about Angelita getting put in that position and the doctor about to drug her, that is what those teachers are like. They're predatory. They do that. And if that made you uncomfortable, that is the message. The same thing with cake, strawberry shortcake, same thing. It's very adult themed, and I feel like a lot of y'all aren't mature enough to understand that. That's my opinion on that. I think a lot of these things y'all are blowing out of proportion because y'all just simply don't like Melanie. And I know for a fact half of y'all will be hate listening to that album and giving her more views just so y'all can hate on that album because you don't like her. I feel like it's more powerful to stop listening to that person and stop talking about that person and all of this stuff to actually hurt them. But a lot of y'all hate listen to people because y'all secretly still love their music, but you hate their actions. It's the same way with Drake. I don't listen to Drake. I don't listen to a lot of rappers that I don't align with because of their like violent past or anything, or how they hate black people. I know y'all are saying because I still listen to Melanie Martinez, I don't believe the victim. I do believe Timothy when I say it. I think stuff happened, but the way in which has been described and the way that I know Melanie can't legally say anything because she is with Atlantic Records, who again suppresses artists heavily, I think it wasn't, and I really don't want to get into it, but my stance on that is very gray. My stance on that is very gray because of just the baseline facts of what we know. But like I said, if y'all disagree with me about that type of stuff, that is perfectly fine. But what I don't want y'all to do is go in my comment section and make this a discussion, a heated discussion about the situation or how you feel about that type of stuff. This is just my opinion as a person who has been through assault, who didn't know I went through assault, who has grown up being exposed to very adult themes, and then a person who as an adult explored those adult themes and talked to people in these communities. That's just my opinion. I don't think Melanie sexualizes children in any way. I think she tells a story in an uncomfortable way that y'all don't like. I don't think she romanticizes any of it. Even if she may not have experienced those things herself, she can still tell those stories. Like, she can still tell those stories. If people in her life that she's known, whether that's in passing or personal, have went through those things and told her about it, or she just hears about the experience all the time and wants to bring a new perspective to bring awareness, she is allowed to do that. I do agree with some people that it doesn't feel as like real about her talking about it because she hasn't experienced it, but I still don't think that is for y'all to say you can't talk about it because you have experienced it. Because a lot of people, like, as y'all know, a lot of people don't speak up about their experiences. And a lot of y'all said because of Dollhouse and because of K through 12, you felt seen because she was talking about those things. But then y'all flipped, and as soon as y'all heard about the allegations, all of a sudden you don't like her talking about it anymore, which I don't think it's fair. There was one girl who made a thing talking about Melanie's attitude when she first got famous, and I would like to let y'all know, like, it is very common for teen stars to become freaking brats. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 16, you're still a child. Rather y'all think that. I honestly think all the way up until you're not a teenager anymore, until you're 20, I still consider you a child, because that's how I see my brothers. My brother is 19 years old and I still see him as a child, and I'm 24. I really think, I look back at myself at 19 and I was like, yeah, I was not mature as a child. But just imagine being 16 years old and all of a sudden you're famous, and all of a sudden you're making all this money, and all of a sudden you're thrown into these very adult things. Because Disney Princess is a perfect example of that. She might not have gone through everything that was talked about it, but she's been through some of it, and she's heard stories from other people. You know, I just think that like writers, y'all, you can tell when a writer is telling someone else's story, if a writer is telling their own story, and when a writer doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. I think Melanie Martinez is a mix of they're telling their story and they're telling stories of others, and I don't think she does it in a very distasteful way. I think she just does it in ways that make people uncomfortable because they're really facing, they're seeing visual, like, they're seeing it visually. Like, some people didn't like how people didn't like Teacher's Pet, and how people didn't like Strawberry Shortcake with the whole cake eating scene. Y'all didn't like it because it's a very real thing, and y'all don't like how it was represented visually. As a black person, I see this a lot. As a black person who experiences all racism of every kind, the one where you're gaslighted into thinking that it's not racism, macro and microaggressions, to blatantly being called a slur in my face. I like how Melanie represents things, because I don't think y'all realize Melanie at the end of the day is a person of color. She's not white passing. Melanie is not white passing. And people who keep on saying she's white passing, you don't know what white passing is, because you're a white person who, just because a person look racially ambiguous enough, you think they're white. And that's y'all's problem. Melanie Martinez does not look racially ambiguous, and she does not look white. That girl looks Mexican. That girl has faced problems of being a Mexican and being a person of color. And I feel like the way she represents certain things is the same way black people represent how they face racism. They don't say it outright exactly all the time, but they do use visual representation that makes people uncomfortable. And when you, as a person who doesn't want to be faced with that uncomfortableness, a lot of white people do this. When you try to tell a white person something factual about slavery, or you tell them, or they watch a movie or they watch a TV show that just casually brings up racism, their biases about them, their bias and their internalized racism screams at them, and then they say they don't like it because it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable with the truth. And I think it's the same thing with Melanie Martinez. Y'all don't like how she brings up the uncomfortable truth about society, about being a woman, about things that you experience as a woman. And for y'all to say that she can't talk about those things because she hasn't directly experienced it, but people in her community experience it. That girl lives in Mexico. That girl grew up in Mexico for a period of time. She may have moved to America, but her parents moved her to America to get her out of those dangers that she could have faced. But because she didn't experience some of these things, which y'all don't know if she experienced it or not. She might have said she had a good life, but to y'all, what a good life is, and to her, what a good life is, could be completely different. Like, a good life for her probably would have been not getting attacked on the streets. I lived a good life because I didn't get brutalized on the street today. But I still had all these other bad things happen to me, but because the greatest bad things didn't happen to me, I lived a good life. Y'all don't know anything personally about that girl. Y'all are taking what she said as a child, at 16, 17, doesn't even matter, 18 or 19. Y'all are taking that and run with it. But y'all don't know what she's truly been through. She probably said that because she's not comfortable telling y'all the shit that she probably have been through as a Mexican woman. That's it. I don't want to get too heated about it, but I just really don't like it. Even if she personally didn't get kidnapped and tag your it and milk and cookies, even though she didn't personally get kidnapped and had to unalive her kidnapper and escape, does not mean she can't tell the story she's probably heard about it back in Mexico or even America. There's a lot of writers out there, a lot of TV show like producers out there who write about the same stuff, but y'all don't give them mess for it. But because y'all don't like Melanie Martinez for the things that her and Timothy did together, whether it was consensual or not, because honestly, I don't know at this point, that does not give y'all the right to do that about her music. Y'all can say y'all don't like her music anymore, or you don't align with whatever anymore, but to say she can't write about things because she never personally went through it doesn't make any sense. Because if people didn't write about the things that happened to people close to them or in their society, then it wouldn't be talked about. Because a lot of victims don't want to speak up and they don't want to tell their story. And it's just the truth of the matter. But anyways, to get on a more lighthearted note, I will be going to Melanie Martinez's listening party for Hades in my state on the 21st. I'm going to record a little bit of it. I'm going to record me going there. I'm going to record just the 2 songs that have already been released, which is Disney Princess and Possessions. And then I'll try to record like the raffle and stuff because there's supposed to be that stuff afterwards. So hopefully I will get that to y'all Saturday. I'm going to go upload this. I'll have this out by Monday or Tuesday. And I will, if y'all have any questions for me, I will answer those questions. There's a new feature on YouTube where you can do voice responses, so I might do those, or I might just text out a response. But anybody who is going to be disrespecting me, disrespecting Timothy, disrespecting Melanie, or disrespecting others in the comment sections, you will be deleted, because I do not tolerate disrespect of anyone. Just because I don't 100% believe either side does not mean you get to tear down either sides as well. I don't tolerate that. I also don't tolerate people calling Melanie a pedo. I don't think she's that, and to say that is honestly completely disrespectful, because there are actual pedos out here who y'all could be getting on, but y'all aren't. So that's all for this video. Even though I am gonna go to the listening party, I will still do a live. I don't know if y'all want me to do a live or if y'all want me to pre-record it, but either way it goes, I will still be doing that on actual release day, because then I'll be able to listen to it on Spotify and read the lyrics. So yeah, I'm sorry I had to be this this serious, but I just wanted to get this out before, just in case I got popular enough for people to like ask questions. I'd rather do it now than wait until too much stuff happens and I post other stuff about Melanie Martinez. So yeah, my stuff is basically organized already. It's this thing is like super nice. So I got all of my stuff in here, And then I'm gonna throw away my kabuki box and any other makeup that I don't use. And I got my brushes in there. I just gotta wipe off my counter and stuff because I'm trying to be better. I figured out I have a vitamin D deficiency, so I now have energy to do things. Not a lot of energy, but I know as when I start taking my pills more and more, my levels get back up, I'll be better. And then I'll have the energy to do YouTube videos. Also, another announcement, I will be going back home in April. So I would try to record as much of that as possible, but it's gonna be a lot of us sitting inside. So it'll be like, if we do like a game night or something, I'll record that and then obviously blur out my niece and nephew's faces because they're babies and they don't need to be on the internet, even if y'all won't see. I don't have enough followers for that, but yeah. So I will see you guys later. Post any questions or anything in the comment section. My rules still stand about what I said. And please let me know if y'all want me to post the album live or pre-recorded, because I don't mind doing either. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.